Welcome back to another episode of the Armchair Crew Chief. My name is Jordan, and I'd like to welcome you back for episode number 2. This week we're going to be talking about what transpired over October 9th, and that was the Roval, as well as the Xfinity race on the 8th as well. Just to kind of get started again, my name is Jordan. Welcome to the Armchair Crew Chief. This is a podcast to discuss motorsports, primarily NASCAR, but also to get into some of the other events that go on in the sports world. We've had a whole bunch of MLB playoffs going on. The Wild Card Series came to a wrap Sunday, so we'll dive briefly into that as well. But once again, thanks for tuning in, and I hope you like and subscribe, and please provide feedback. This will greatly help improve this podcast. So let's get started off. So the Xfinity race that happened on Saturday, overall, from what I was able to watch, it looked like it was a great fun race. And to be honest, a lot of the Xfinity racing this year I feel has been better than the Cup Series racing. More challenging, more fighting back and forth, a lot of different people winning. Not so, well, I'll rephrase that. A lot more challenging and people winning stages. But overall, it seems to be more entertaining, more bang for your buck. That's what I would say. And that's kind of what I've gotten out of it, and what I've, talking to family members and so on, they've kind of felt the same way. They feel the Xfinity, I guess, with the cup car coming in new and all the different changes, it's drastically changed everything. So it is to be expected, these different changes. But going on first, seems like Riley Herbst just can't win for losing. I mean, he was running well throughout the whole day, and then it just started going downhill for him. It kind of stinks. The usual contenders were up at the front. A.J. Allmendinger and Ty Gibbs. They were really good battles, back and forth. And then you had the JRM cars in there too in the mix, going on, with Noah Gragson finishing up there as well. There was Sheldon Creed. Man, I really can't wait for this guy to get his first win. It seems like he's up there, kind of like with Riley Herbst, just up there, and then something just happens last minute, late, and he can't get the win. And that happened again Saturday, where he spun and unfortunately didn't get the win. He was up there contending for most of the race, top 5, and uh, sometimes luck is not in your court. But anyway, going back to it, AJ set a precedent and a record. He's the only person that's won the Roval in the Xfinity cars, which is pretty cool. It's 4 times. That helped keep him and Noah Gragson as the locked-in people moving forward in the playoffs. Speaking of the playoffs, Daniel Hemrick did not make it into the next round, so we will not have a repeat Xfinity winner. And that is, just looking at some of the images, he is so heartbroken on how everything turned out. And I mean, hey, you can't fault the guy. He was working his butt off. He swapped over from Joe Gibbs over to Colleague, and hoping everything would work out. And I mean, hey, shows that he is a good driver, switching over, and still being able to contend for championships. So your final 4 in the Xfinity, you have 3 Chevys and 1 Toyota. I mean, you can kind of guess who the Toyota is. We have Noah Gragson AJ Allmendinger, Ty Gibbs, and Justin Allgaier. So this is Colleague and JRM. I feel it's, Noah's Noah's to lose. He's been fairly strong, especially in the late end. It's not all how you start; it's how you finish. And he's been rolling recently. He had those two back-to-back wins before the Roval, and he's been hanging in there and doing it. But you can't count out AJ. AJ, regular season champ. He's looking for that before he moves up to Cup. So we'll see what happens there. It's going to prove to be, I think, some good racing going forward. I believe they are at Las Vegas coming up. So hey, that ought to be fun and prove to be some things going on there. We'll see what happens going forward. Again, I think that it's big time on Xfinity to prove that they are better. Well, not really prove they are better because they are still a lower racing series to Cup, but I mean they're proving, at least to me, and I would say a lot more people, that they are the better. They're the better series to watch right now. Which, hey, that if they can get the exposure that they need, then hey, that'll be fun. I mean, it's kind of the same issue with the trucks. Trucks don't get the exposure they need, and that's why they started lumping them in as double headers on Saturdays. People will probably prove me wrong, but hey, that's my opinion, and we'll roll with it. So going forward here, the Cup race. Just starting off with Cup, we'll discuss that going into going into everything of watching a little bit of practice and qualifying. I know these cars are composite now. They have the underbody covering, so they are really stiff. And just kind of watching them based on some of the things that I've seen with IMSA cars, I feel that they just don't look comfortable out there, especially on the road courses. I think I heard on the broadcast Sunday that people were saying these cars are great for road courses. I don't know. Maybe it's the driver behind there. I mean, we are talking about drivers that mostly do oval racing, and we've grown more into the road courses. But just watching it, it didn't look comfortable. That car, the driver, didn't look comfortable going around, especially the chicanes in the back in the NASCAR track. They just didn't look comfortable. So, maybe that's one of the things that'll change whenever they figure out what NASCAR figures out with this rear deck and the rear of the vehicle on crushing and being a little bit more looser. I say looser as in not as stiff, not as tight. So going into this race, we only had one driver that locked in to the next round of 8. Actually, honestly, it's the only playoff driver that has won in the playoffs. We've had different winners. I think we're on 19 different winners, if I'm not mistaken. The last winner was Chris Buescher. He won the night race. Then you had Reddick winning at Texas, and then Chase. And I mean, Reddick, yeah, he was a playoff driver, but he was knocked out of the round of 12. So, it's very interesting time in NASCAR in the Cup Series. You have a new car that drivers say got pushed out too early, and they have a lot of safety concerns. You have, you see people like Kurt Busch staying out longer because of concussion. Alex Bowman, same thing, concussion issues. And these are rear accidents. They're not head-on accidents that these guys are getting concussed in. I mean, it was kind of weird to hear Kurt Busch getting concussed. And we were, my family, we were at that race at Pocono camping in turn 1. and we heard it over the radio and the scanner, and we're like, no, that can't be right. But moving forward, uh, we did get some good racing towards the end of the Roval. We we still didn't see a lot of passing, which, you know, I think that speaks volumes for this whole race, the race season. There hasn't been a lot of passing. You have some passing on restarts, which you're going to get no matter what. You had some passing, you know, towards the back, some guys moving up, and then most of your passing was for the lead, and it was only like the top five. I don't know if it's just, it can't be driver ability, because you have a lot of drivers running in the back. You have a lot of drivers running middle pack, and it overall it makes it tougher to pass. So we'll see if maybe that changes with some of these upgrades that NASCAR's going to have to do with safety and so on. So starting off, we had Joey Logano qualify on the pole. Then you had Byron and Suarez second and third to start the race. Um, you know, it seemed like there was some good solid racing going on. As I said, towards the end of the race is what I felt. It got more entertaining. Throughout the race, it goes back to that can't pass idea. And we had some power steering pumps fail with, yet again, this time with the Chevrolets. Colleague, I think I heard that AJ Allmendinger was dealing with a failing pump. You got to feel for Daniel Suarez. I mean, his pump failed and he was fighting that car, and they kept showing the in car of it. And, you know, he was not comfortable, to say the least. And even in the interview, post race interview, he was sitting there. He's like, "Man, my arm still hurts. I've never felt this bad after a race." And I mean, you could see he was fighting it. Hopefully, I'd like to get out there to a couple more races and see these things in person. See these new cars in person. I've seen them twice, at Dover and at Pocono, and yeah, it's interesting to see. And it's not just now Ford and Toyota with power steering pumps and fires and things like that. The Chevrolets are getting into the mix, which, raises a lot of red flags for me for NASCAR. It's like, hey guys, hopefully you're going back and looking at this stuff and seeing what you can improve on, because you just can't throw a car out there and it look bad and then not do anything about it. So we'll see what happens. I know they're doing a lot of safety testing, but anyway, yeah, you got to feel for Daniel Suarez. He finished towards the back of the pack just because he kept fighting that power steering pump, and man, it was, you got to feel for him on that. Going through some of the other notable racing, I mean, you had Daniel Suarez getting into it with some of the other guys, mostly because it wasn't his fault because of power steering, but he had some back and forth with Corey LaJoie. Um, I know they had some other things pop up with, towards the end of the race, where they were questioning, I believe it was, Briscoe and what he was doing. And man, he towards the end of the race, he was sending it. Austin Dillon was doing his thing, beating and banging, as I say, off of people, because yeah, that seems like that's what helps him the best, is just being a little bit more aggressive. Um, the 4, 9, and 16 towards the end of the race. So you had in the 16 this week, you had Allmendinger. As we said before, excellent guy at the Roval. 4 wins, the only winner at the Roval in Xfinity. Colleague tapped him, put him in the car, and I mean, he's, as we saw last year with him at the Indianapolis road course, he's a road course mastermind. So if he can get it done, if anybody can get it done, he can get it done. Um, so going into that, to the final part of that race, you had Christopher Bell win, which that was a last lap pass on a restart, and he took over. He had the fresher tires. Actually, if anybody was passing, it was Christopher Bell. In the last two restarts, he made up so much ground. He had the fresher tires. He decided to come in, and he just blew past everybody. I was hoping Allmendinger would win it. He had a good battle up front. Him and Chase Elliott were going at it. Chase Elliott kind of moved Allmendinger out of the way. Next thing you know, Chase Elliott spins, and it's Harvick leading the race. So you had Harvick, I believe Allmendinger was fourth on the last restart, and then you had Christopher Bell a little bit further back from there, and man, he made up some time, and he passed uh, Kevin Harvick in that last restart, and he didn't look back. He rolled, and just looking at some of his comments that he made, I keep watching all these races. The fastest car doesn't always win. No secret that road courses have been our strength this year. Yeah, out of all the Toyotas, I think Christopher Bell. I mean, Sonoma, the Toyota's kind of messed up. Poor pit strategy. And hey, it's rough. And then so going through there, we'll go ahead and say the round of 8 has been settled, and we're going into, as I was mentioning earlier, Las Vegas for our next race. But our round of 8 is Elliott, who got locked in, Christopher Bell got locked in, and then everybody else made it on points. That was Joey Logano, Ross Chastain, who had a heck of a time racing throughout the whole weekend. He ran into a tire barrier during qualifying. He had some. He tried to straighten out a little bit of a curve too easily and bumped in and screwed up one of his control arms during the race, and they were able to fix it and get him back out there to save that. You have William Byron, who surprisingly to me, he's been making a strong case towards the playoffs. Historically, I haven't, he kind of fallen off a little bit in the past when it comes into the late stages of the playoffs, but he's running. Blaney, he's made it in. Denny Hamlin and Chase Briscoe, those are your round of 8 drivers. So one big name that you didn't hear me say that is not going to repeat is Kyle Larson. He had some issues late in the race where they had to work on his car, and it just put him back. Chase Briscoe actually, he worked his butt off towards the end of the race to get in there, because Larson was your last person, your 8th driver for the round of 8, and Briscoe, he just took it in his own hands and hauled butt and got it. So, that's fun. We'll see. This is going to make it interesting, this round of 8. We're going into Las Vegas, as I mentioned, going next, and then from there we have, so you have your South Point race, and then we have the Dixie Vodka 400 at Homestead, which we haven't been to Homestead in these cars yet. They've tested there, but we haven't seen a race there, so that's going to be interesting to watch. And then Martinsville, and cap it all off at Phoenix. So your round of 8 cars are going to be Vegas, round of 8 cars, round of 8 races. Vegas this Sunday the 16th, next Sunday the 23rd, Miami, and then the 30th at Martinsville. So let's see what happens. Prediction wise, I don't know. My gut tells me that Elliott's going to be there. I think Denny's probably going to find his way through there. Ross and probably Joey. As we sit right now in the playoff standings, without that race, we are looking at the number 1 driver is Chase Joey Ross and Christopher Bell, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Um, we'll see what happens. I think Denny's going to squeak his way through. I'd like to see Blaney come in. Um, my my prediction for the championship is still Ross. I think he's, what Trackhouse has been able to do and what they've done. Man, they've opened it up. They should be the poster child for NASCAR with this new car. They wanted somebody in there, and they wanted other teams besides, the big three, the big four, um, and they've come in and thrown their weight around and proven themselves. Not just with Ross, but with Daniel Suarez too. So if anybody counted out Suarez, he's proven that he can drive. So let's see. We got, again. We'll catch up next week after the Vegas race and discuss what happened there. Um, but yeah, going into other news, one thing that popped up I saw yesterday was um, Dodge was looking, as everybody knows, Dodge was looking to try to get back into the Cup racing and NASCAR, and NASCAR's been looking for new manufacturers because right now all you have is Ford, Chevy, and Toyota. But unfortunately, it looks like the everything's kind of slid by the side, put on hold for Dodge coming in. I just read a quick article this morning stating that the financial part of this is actually making them rethink everything. So we'll see what happens. I would like to see a new manufacturer in there. Honestly, it doesn't have to be American. If we change the rules, let's get it. Let's get a Honda or somebody like that in there. Nissan. I know a lot of the purists will think I'm stupid and crazy, but I think more manufacturers will help the sport going forward. So we'll see what happens. Dodge was eyeing RFK for their entry into Cup Series, back into the Cup Series. So, we'll see what happens there. We'll go forward, see if any other news pops up during the week. And yeah, that's it for this week's episode 2 of the Armchair Crew Chief. I don't think there's anything else that could have been said too much about the race. It ended up being great towards the end. We have our round of 8 drivers now. We'll see what happens. Yeah, hope to see you guys next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's continue this journey. Thanks for being with me.